ICC Appeals Chamber unanimously denied his request for interim release. The Hague-based court rejected his camp's arguments that he should be freed due to his advanced age and alleged declining health. What's next for Mr. Duterte? Let's get on point with his former chief presidential legal counsel, Attorney Salvador Panelo. Attorney Panelo, good to see you again. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. Were you surprised with the decision of the Appeals Chamber of the ICC?
No. I'm saying this is a foregone conclusion. In the first place, they forced themselves into this country without jurisdiction. So alam mo na kung ano mangyayari. Plus the cooperation of this government, talagang tuloy-tuloy.
But did you look into the points raised by the defense and, of course, also the prosecution regarding the interim release? Maybe it's good that let's look into them one by one. So, accordingly, yung sabi po ng prosecution, wag ibigay yung interim release. One, because his detention remained necessary. Kailangan siyang manatili doon. Number two, that the conditions proposed for release not sufficient to mitigate risks. Yun po yung second point nung prosecutor. And the third was also rejected that he should be released on humanitarian grounds. So those were their points.
Number one, why is it necessary according to them? Why is it necessary? Ano ba sabi nila? Bakit necessary? May reason ba sila? Not necessary?
The influence that he has still, and in fact that was also said and announced earlier by the Appeals Chamber. Maraming gusto nang sinasabi na I heard it, I read parts of it and I read it and I heard parts of it because we were also going on air. Ang sabi po nila, Attorney Sal, is that often they said that him being a former president, still having authority and having won as mayor, yun narinig ko yun maybe twice or three times, para kung nakasama pa sa kanya.
He was former president, and at the time that he was president, all these accusations had surfaced then, and the witnesses were there, and he didn't lift a finger at all against all of them. So where's the risk?
Oh, that's a good point, ha? Hindi, tama naman eh. Sa lahat na nag-post, lahat ng fake news, wala naman eh. He was the president, wala naman po siyang pinakulong, pinapatay. Hindi nga katulad ngayon eh. Lahat ng oposisyon, tinatakot, kinakasuhan, yung magsasalita pa yung sekretary na kesyo, si Dizon yan. Narinig yung si prrd ng ganun? Oo, matapang si prrd, pero ang kanyang tinatakot lang, mga kriminal. Mga oposisyon, wala. Itong gobyerno natin ngayon, walang tinakot na kriminal. Sinabi pa nga, mga nagdadrugs siya mga yan kasi kailangan sa trabaho. Ano tinakot nila ngayon? Yung mga nagpaparesign kay Marcos, yun ang tinakot nila. Baligtad eh. Kaya napaka-demonyo ng gobyernong to.
Yung mga risks that possibly would have come out would be interference, etc. No? So let's look at...
How can he interfere? Diba? Unang-una, sabi nila, baka may
network kasi of influence. What do you say to that? That network of influence?
Malabo nga yun. Kasi kung nung actual president siya, hindi niya ginamit yung influence at yung power. Bakit ngayon na wala siya, gagamitin niya? Walang logic. Tapos yung sinasabi nila yung baka mag-escape, may risk. The man is 80 years old. He cannot even maintain balance. We know that he has plenty of sakit. Paano tatakas? I'm sure kung siyang masusunod, pag na-release siya, gusto niya na lang sa ospital diretso. Ilang gusto niya.
If we were to, I mean, you're obviously very vocal, no, about this justification on the former president, but that's not what obviously the appeals chamber saw. Hindi ho ba? Kaya ni-reject yung kanyang interim release eh.
They will always be seeing the negative side on this issue precisely because at the very inception, ang tawag doon sa basketball, forcing through Wala ka na nga jurisdiction, kaya mo pinilit pumunta rito eh. Talagang target mo si Duterte, walang iba. At nag-participate pa itong gobyerno natin, talagang tuloy-tuloy na yan. Kahit anong sabihin mo, ever since sinasabi ko, wala na yan.
So from the very beginning, alam niyo na the interim release was a no-go.
Oh, kasi nga, yung
Suntok sa
jurisdiction lang, may problema ka lang sa jurisdiction.
Yeah, but that was already decided upon.
Ang problema, kasi I was my unsolicited advice to the defense lawyers. Kasi napansin ko, ang sinasabi ng chamber, di ba, ang niraise nila is yung ginawa mong, parang kini-request mo yung jurisdiction, ang ground mo lang is that we withdrew and nag-umpisa kayo ng investigation 2 years after. Yun lang, nilimit nila doon. And I said, dagdagan nyo pa. Number one,
Anong dapat idagdag?
dapat ang one jurisdiction mo, number one is yung ground for jurisdiction. The Rome Statute never took effect in this country because of the constitutional requirement of publication.
Publishing it
That's
in the
one.
official gazette.
Oh. May ruling ng Supreme Court doon yung sa Tavera case. Sinabi na yun, pag hindi mo pinablish yan, walang epekto yan. Number two, ang sabi ko, dapat dinagdag nyo na yung pinagpipilitan na, kasi sabi nila, hindi, you're still under obligation sa amin kasi we started the investigation. They're referring to the preliminary
examination.
I've been saying all...
It's called preliminary examination.
Matagal ko na sinasabi, yung preliminary examination cannot be part of preliminary investigation. You know why? It doesn't discuss the case. What it determined at that time was whether or not the principle of complementarity applies. Because all the states, members of the Rome Statute, hindi sila pwedeng pumasok unless, one, wala silang
Kasapi ka.
kakayahan. No capability. At kung may capability naman, they're not doing it kasi sila yung mga guilty. That's the only time, yun ang dinidetermine nila. In fact, I remember the Solicitor General at the time, nilalabanan nila, excuse me, we have a robust, di ba sila robust legal system. We have, tingnan mo, Pinky, we have prosecuted thousands, we jailed thousands. Ano pa bang prueba na may capacity tayo? Number two, may sinipa tayong presidente, in-exile natin. Number three, 2 presidente pinakulong natin. Ang dami libo-libo nakakulong. Paano mo sasabihin wala tayong kakayahan? Doon lang, only on that basis alone, wala na jurisdiction. Kaya dapat sinama niyo yun.
Bakit hindi sinama? As you were suggesting.
Hindi ko na alam yun. Ang problema kasi sa kanila,
Sino ba sila, sir?
yung mga defense lawyers na mga dayon, ayaw nila kasi magpapasok ng Filipino lawyer. They were relying principally on the former president. Sila na nga nagsasabi may cognitive decline. So kung ano mga tatanong nila, baka nakalimutan na nung mama.
Is it also possible that the arguments that you raised to them may seem weak?
Ay, anong week? Napakalakas nga.
To them, I said, may seem
Aba, hindi
weak.
po pwede. You have to follow. Kasi yung domestic law prevails over international law. Yun ang pinaka-importante ron. You cannot interfere in the jurisdiction of a country unless that...
Alam mo, may point din ito talaga si Panelo, no? Medyo sana nga magkaroon ng advisor itong si Kaufman na alam ang konteksto sa Pilipinas. Kasi actually maraming ako nababasa na medyo nagagalit o naiinis kay Kaufman. Parang ganon. Although, again, I think bago kahit sino pang abogadong ilagay mo dyan, ay mukhang masasabi nating luto na yung kaso. Kasi una-una nakipagkuntsabahan Nakipagkuntsabahan ang ICC at etong si Marcos. Kung gusto nyo malaman ng buong istorya niyan, may live si si Sas Roganda. Sorry, hindi ko nakalimutan ko na. Basta, si Sas, meron siyang live dyan. At sinasabi nga niya, may letter na sinulat ang ating gobyerno sa ICC. May confidential letter. Tapos, tsaka daw doon in-issue yung warrant. So, para bagang may ni-request, parang gano'n na sinasabi ni Sas. Parang merong confidential na ni-request. Ibig sabihin, nagkuntsabahan yung dalawa. So, mukhang luto na ho itong pangyayari na ito na maaaring kahit palitan pa si Kaufman, baka wala ring epekto. Although maganda yung suggestion ni Panelo na sana kumuha ng advisor na sa local. Especially ako, suggestion ko it's either Panelo o si Roque, di ba? Kasi mas naiintindihan ng konteksto ng Pilipinas at mas naiintindihan siguro yung kalalagayan, yung naging parte kasi ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Duterte.
Allows you. And this is a particular case where they allow. Pero may kondisyon. Papasok kayo sa amin kasi wala kaming kakayahan. Or may kakayahan man kami, mga siraulo yung mga nandun, kaya hindi ipoprosecute. That's the only time Kasi if we will agree with their theory, ay wala nang country na maaaring lumabas sa kanilang jurisdiction. Kasi palagi nilang sinasabi, from the time a case is filed, we have jurisdiction. Isus Mariosep. Eh di wala na pala. Absolute na pala. Kasi kahit anong sabi mong wala kayong jurisdiction on this ground, hindi na pwede. Kasi, nag-file. We determine, nag-preliminary, hindi na kayo po pwede.
There was a decision made on that.
Absolute na pala yung authority nyo. So, sinira nyo yung jurisdiction ng lahat ng bansa na miyembro nyo. Hindi naman po pwede yun.
So, what could be next? Because there's still a motion on the unfit to stand trial. Basically, ang sabi ng defense, tigilan na natin yung let's stop the proceedings because the former president is unfit to stand trial.
Good you mentioned that kasi I've been criticizing the chamber. Sabi nila, we're denying because the accused wasn't able to prove that he is mentally unfit. Sabi ko, excuse me, bakit ang accused magpuprove? He is a controlled environment. Nakakulong He has no access to medical equipment, medical expertise. Kayo yun ICC, kaya dapat from the very
Why do you
beginning.
say he has no access to medical
How can he
doctors?
How can he has that?
They're big
Nakakulong
on, malaki po sila on the medical condition of the respondents that they are keeping detained there.
Ang sinasabi nila, meron naman kaming doktor, di ba?
Yeah, we have a
meron
round-the-clock
kaming nurse. Si Presidente Duterte, bago nila inaresto, ilan ba ang nurses niya? 3. 24 hours, palit-palit.
Shifting of 8
May
hours
doktor pa.
each.
Ay doon, meron kang nurse sa nurse station. Hindi mo binabantayan yung pasyente mo. Napakadelikado ng sitwasyon niya. Kaya sabi ko, kayo dapat ang mag-prove na mentally fit yan.
But isn't that the reason why they got 3 independent medical doctors to look into the former
Tinanggal
president?
nila yung isa.
2 na po yung tinanggal nila.
But
They took out 1, pinalitan, and then yung pinalit ata.
Yes, but that came
pinalitan
later
din.
after they've been criticized severely yung kanilang ginawa na bakit yung accused ang pinapaprove mo na unfit siya? Kayo dapat yung from the very start. Nung dinitain nyo pa lang yan, dapat in-examine nyo na yan.
But they did. They did examine him, right?
Pero kung totoo yun, bakit nagpapa-examine na naman silang panibago? Sige nga.
Because of the motion of Attorney Kaufman
Exactly.
that he is unfit to stand trial.
Exactly.
That came from the defense. That did not
Teka
come
muna,
from the prosecution.
Exactly. Kung in-examine mo na yan, kahit ka pa mag-file ng motion, kung ako ang judge, excuse me, in-examine na namin yan. He's mentally fit. The fact alone na you allowed yourself to grant such motion, you're admitting na hindi mo in-examine nun.
Well, of course,
Kaya
you
may
have to grant
problema.
the motion because it was a motion or an application coming from the defense. Alam nga naman, hindi mo pansinin yun. Di
Oo
ba?
nga, pero
At saka one more thing, Attorney Sal, no? The former president was there in March, hindi ho ba? So chinek siya, he seemed okay. Obviously, that's why he remained there. From March till November, or from the time that the unfit to stand trial was filed by the defense, I believe that was sometime September 10, maybe the first week of September, kasi dapat yung confirmation of charges na September 23. They filed that motion, unfit to stand trial. My question is, from the time of March till September, that possibly, I'm assuming, was the time that Attorney Kaufman, the defense team, and said that throughout this time, here is the former president now unfit to stand trial. There was a decline.
Kasi nga, dapat from the time na na-aresto yan, in-examine mo na thoroughly yan, considering na marami siyang nararamdaman. Pero hindi naman nila ginawa yan. Ordinaryong examination, yung blood pressure, okay
I
ba?
don't think so, sir. How do you know that?
kung totoo yung sinasabi nila, bakit mo nga pina-examine uli?
Okay, we're not
Because you can
gonna-
always deny the motion, Pinky, on the ground now. Excuse me, you have already examined that thoroughly. This is the report.
Yeah, but they at some point when they decide on this, Attorney Panelo, they can deny that motion of unfit to stand trial. But let's first take a breather. We're gonna take a very short break. We'll be right back.
Ayaw tumanggap ni Pinky. Bakit kaya ayaw tumanggap ni Pinky? Galit na galit.
Welcome back. Now we have on the line ICC Assistant to Counsel Attorney Christina Conti. Attorney Conti,
Yan,
welcome to
tapos
the
siyang
show.
kakampihan. Tingnan nyo.
Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Pinky.
Okay, just a quick reaction from your end regarding the decision of the appeals chamber.
We're absolutely satisfied. It was a unanimous decision to reject, deny the appeal of Duterte. And sabi nga ng mga biktima, mukhang makakapagpasko sila ng kahit paano masaya.
Attorney Conti, some of the points now raised, which Attorney Salvador Panelo's here also beside me, and he was raising it as well. Yung mga issues, kasi just to give a little bit of a background no, dito sa naging appeal ng defense regarding the decision of the pretrial chamber on the interim release. Sabi ng pretrial, his detention remains necessary, that
Yes.
the conditions proposed for the release are not sufficient to mitigate risks. No? And then the third was rejected, that he should be released through humanitarian reasons. Yun po sabi ng pretrial chamber. We're not gonna allow it because of those points. Before I go to the defense argument, you know, Attorney Panelo also here, as I mentioned a while ago, saying, anong risks? Ano pa ba ang risks? And when I answered him, because I heard it during the appeals chamber decision, sabi nga na meron pa siyang network of influence, dating Pangulo, at ngayon ay nanalo pa na mayor ng Davao. Tama ho ba yung aking rinig, Attorney Conti?
Yes, that's precisely it. It's that Duterte still enjoys influence within the Philippines, and not only influence, he and his family, his associates, lagi nababanggit na no, associates and networks. So it's not
Grabe, no? Hindi nila matanggap talaga eh. Iniisip pa rin nila, eto ganyan katindi at yung power ni PRRD. Nakakulong na siya. Iniisip pa ng ICC, iniisip pa nitong itong taon to, na meron talagang matinding network and influence si Pangulong Duterte. Maniniwala pa sana ako kung bati si Marcos at saka si VP Sara Duterte, maniniwala pa sana ako. Pero hindi naman na sila eh. I mean, hindi na sila unit team. Magkaaway na nga sila. Ginigipit na nga si VP Sara Duterte. So saan kukuha ng power si Pangulong Duterte? Grabe antindi na, hindi, sa loob ko, antindi ng influence ni Pangulong Duterte at power niya. Hindi nyo sinasabi yan kay BBM. Ba't ganun? Di ba? So, ibig sabihin, mas may kapangyarihan pa si Pangulong Duterte, mas may impluensya pa siya para makatakas siya at makabalik sa Pilipinas kaysa sa Pangulo na nakaupo ngayon? Ganon?
simply him. That was actually one of the defense arguments in the appeal. Sabi nila, wala nang magagawa si Duterte, nakakulong na siya. The chamber now says, it's not just him that you need to appreciate. It's his associates, his family members who are in office. One is Vice President of the Philippines.
I see.
And it's also the resources available to them. And I'd like to point out that what the judge pointed out regarding parang what risk for the ICC, it's the possibility, not the inevitability of something happening, is what is important. Kumbaga,
So sinasabi niya influence. So sige, punta tayo doon sa influence network, yung ano niya, yung anak niya. 'Di ba? Na si VP Sara Duterte. Si VP Sara Duterte nga ginigipit. Hindi nga makagalaw si VP Sara Duterte. Ultimo nga budget ng opisina niya kinatkong. Lahat ginawa sa kanya. Kakasuhan pa, kung ano-ano pang gagawin sa kanya. Ano sinasabi ninyong meron pang influence na ano? Yan ang sinasabi nila kasi parang ang dating, oo nga, nakakulong na si Duterte, pero paano naman yung network of niya? Anong network? Alam mo, eto makinig kayo mabuti. Makinig kayong mga tatanga-tangang komento ng political analyst dyan. Kung may impluensya pa mga Duterte, wala na sa posisyon si BBM. Kasi anong pinalalabas ninyo May impluensyahan pa, meron pang impluensya, meron pang power si Duterte. Kung may power si Duterte, hindi na nakaupo yan nga, yung presidente na yan, si BBM. Bakit? Imagine niyo kung may power sa tindi ng banat ng kapatid niya, ang dali-dali na sakyan yan, di sana sinabihan niya na yung mga sundalo, hulihin nyo na yan, adik yan. Di ba? Kita nyo hanggang ngayon nakaupo pa rin. Kasi hindi ganun ang mga Duterte. Ayaw ng Duterte sa rebellion. Ayaw ng Duterte ang beyond legal means. Ganun ang mga Duterte. Ba't takot na takot kayo sa sarili ninyong multo?
Of prevention is worth a pound of cure. As much as possible, they would avoid and kumbaga, dapat hindi yung parang second thought na lang, ay nakalaya na, oops, oo nga, no, sayang, di natin nagawa ng paraan. Or, ay may biktima na namatay or may witness na nawala. They, as much as possible, do not go to that inevitability or the thing happening, but just the mere possibility, they will act on it.
Just also a follow-up because Attorney Panelo also was saying a while ago, no, nung Pangulo nga siya, wala siyang ginawa, didn't even lift a finger for any influence or to intervene dito sa mga kaso or sa mga biktima. I know, Attorney Conte, you were saying that it's not him. It's also his networks and associates, no? But just to answer that also while Attorney Panelo's here. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, if you remember the Senate investigation, and this is one of the factual information that was contested in the appeal or discussed in the appeal, it's the reliance on a news report about the alleged parang loyalty check by, if I may name names, no, this was by the former Senator, currently Senator Alan Peter Cayetano and Bato de la Rosa. They were talking to a witness in the hearings about the DDS killings, and parang he was loyalty check. Alam mo na kung kanino ka magiging loyal, alam mo na. That was included in the consideration of the pre-trial chamber.
I see.
That's associated clearly. At that point, Alan Peter had run as vice president of Duterte.
Right. Right. Okay. Also, there's one point I wanted to raise. I have to be very candid. I didn't get to watch the whole reading of the decision because I was also on air. There was a part, though, that I hope you can clarify for me because there were 3 points that were raised ni Huba. Inisa-isa po yun ni Judge. Kaya rejected yung first point, rejected yung second point, rejected po yung third point. At one point there, the judge was talking about humanitarian considerations to the effect that yung pagkarinig ko po that dapat balikan ng pre-trial chamber itong appeal on humanitarian considerations. Did you hear that or did I just not hear it in full? Kasi parang ang sabi ko noon, mukhang sinasabi ng appeals chamber, kailangan talaga tingnan yung kanyang medical situation.
I don't know, but what I heard was, pagkakaintindi ko, that the pre-trial chamber has the authority and has the right to look into everything about his medical condition at that point. What the judge in the end said was, well, it's correct. The pre-trial chamber did appreciate the information about his medical condition. They saw nothing unreasonable kasi ang sinasabi ng defense, the judges in the pre-trial chamber ignored some of the information. Dito sinasabi niya, well, the pre-trial chamber has the authority to look into whatever, and from what we saw, there was no unreasonable ignoring any of the information.
I see, yeah.
Hindi naman daliwala. And therefore, that decision seems to be sound, and there is no error in their ultimate conclusion.
All right.
Kasi Actually, sorry, if I may just put this in, yung sa interim release kasi, humanitarian grounds is not a clear-cut, kumbaga parang exception or basis. It's really just the what was mentioned in Article 58.
Yeah.
Flight risk, etc., etc. Humanitarian grounds, very rare these days yun. Uso sa Pilipinas, I know.
Okay.
Pero sa kanila, bago yun, and so the pre-trial chamber should be allowed to appreciate the information.
Lastly,
Hindi unrestricted.
Apo. Attorney, lastly, no? So, isa na lang po yung pending, yung sa unfit to stand trial.
One, before that issue before the pre-trial chamber, but there's also an appeal on the rejected jurisdiction
Yes.
question.
Apo.
So, before the appeals chamber, there's one other issue.
Jurisdiction.
The pre-trial chamber, yes, and the pre-trial chamber, one issue, or main issue. The
Unfit to stand trial.
Yes.
All right. Maraming salamat po, ICC Assistant to Counsel, Attorney Christina Conti. Thank you so much for your time. So, care to react? Thank you, ma'am. Some of the points you were raising, you know, I also asked her to be able to respond to that. So
She did
it's
not
not
respond to-
network and associates,
She did not
sir.
respond to that. Sinasabi na nga, why
Barato.
should you be... Yung sinasabing network, presidente na nga siya, ano ba, in power, with all the influence, with all the resources, wala siyang ginawa. Bakit naman may gagawin pa siya ngayon? Tandaan mo, he could have not come to the Philippines.
Yun.
Marami nang advice sa kanya,
You
mga
mean from
abogado
Hong
niya.
Kong? He could not have come back
Di
to
ba?
the Philippines from
Pero
Hong
sabi
Kong.
niya, no, harapin ko sila. O, dun lang, makikita mo na.
Attorney Panelo, how do you think, what is your forecast regarding this still motion on unfit to stand trial before the pre-trial chamber?
Eh,
one?
tutuloy nila yan.
What do you mean by that? They will
Well,
reject-
they will proceed with the trial. Unless we're
what is the unless?
we're overrun by events.
Okay. Hindi po. Legally, doon po tayo doon sa legally. Meron pa ho kasi kayong naging
Palagi naman legal eh.
urgent, meron pong unconstitutional means. Yung urgent motion that you
Yes,
filed on
to-
behalf of the daughter,
yes.
Kitty Duterte,
To resolve the petition for a writ of habeas corpus
yung writ of
petition.
habeas.
Yes.
So, why do you think, I mean, there's two possible. I mean, one, they would probably say that it's not within our jurisdiction anymore.
Hindi po pwedeng walang jurisdiction.
Wala
kasi
na siya sa amin.
Hindi po pwede yun kasi nag-cite na kami ng mga reasons. Number one, yung pinaka-recent, yung kay Tebes. Hindi ba Tebes denied extradition? Ba't natin ay balik dito? Mantalang talo tayo doon. Number two, yung sa Trump case, may dineport, pero irregular yung kanilang deportation. Sabi ng Supreme Court, mali kayo. Facilitate the release. Balik nyo. Number three, yung Lukban case, yung 124 or 120 prostitute, tinapon sa Davao, nag-file ng petition for writ. Ang sabi ng gobyerno, wala na kayong jurisdiction, wala na yung tao. Excuse me, sabi ng court, kahit na wala ang tao rito, yung mali nyo, sinusundan kayo kung saan kayo. In other words, my argument from the very start is the government has committed an illegal act, then the Supreme Court has jurisdiction over these government
This
officials
supposed
and
illegal
therefore can
act.
compel them to correct what they did and bring back the president,
Very
former
quickly,
president here.
Attorney Panelo.
Ayun. So, malinaw yun, mga kababayan, ha? Meron. At ang kinagandahan nito, ladies and gentlemen, naglabas po ang Supreme Court ng parang pinasasagot po yung mga inakusahan ni Baste Duterte na tungkol dun sa pagka-kidnap kay Pangulong Duterte. At sabi ng Supreme Court, pinasasagot niya ngayon yung mga inakusahan. So, gumagalaw po ang Supreme Court. Wag po tayo mawala ng pag-asa. Sabi nga ni Panelo, posible yan. That's possible. If ever in the future mag-decide ng Supreme Court at sabihin, mali yung ginawa mo, Marcos. Umayos ka. Ibalik mo dito si Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Babalik yan. Babalik yan. Kayang ibalik. Yan ang sinasabi ni Panelo dito.
Why do you think wala pa pong decision dyan?
Hindi ko alam kasi unang-una, ang Korte Suprema naman, maraming trabaho. Pangalawa, medyo mahirap din naman yung
Ang tanungin mo, Pinky, si Korte Suprema, wag siya.
legal issues involved. Palagay ko they will resolve. Kasi sabi namin,
You're so confident.
pag hindi mo ni-resolve yan, your honors, yung deterioration ng kanyang karamdaman,
Health.
baka hindi naman sana mangyari, baka mamamatay pa doon. Pangalawa, yun yung mga involved doon sa illegal act, lahat sila na-promote eh. Para bang nire-reward natin yung illegality. At parang you're not giving relief to the ordinary citizen dito sa mga opisyalis, violating with impunity yung batas. Kaya kailangan sabi namin, i-resolve niya na po para ma-prevent na natin to so that the majesty of the law will prevail.
Former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, Attorney Salvador Panela. Sir,
So ayun mga kababayan,